Okay, so I just want to address an issue, which is that I am seeing a lot of code that is very poorly lined up. And this is one of the reasons, as you get into more advanced programming, using a compiler like Visual Studio can be very beneficial. So just as an example, now we're working on structures. So let me just say, uh, see how that puts the curly braces in, it puts a semicolon at the end, it tabs over so that everything's organized the way it should be. Okay. When you get into your main program, as soon as you hit the enter key, it tabs over so that you start, typing things the way they should be. Let me see, let me do this. If you have an if statement, it tabs everything over where it should be. And everything is nice and lined up. And this is what all of my programs look like. But when I get code from you guys, oh my goodness, it's crazy looking. So just the other thing here, right? Expected, a semicolon. You get all these syntax reminders as you're typing your code in Visual Studio. See this mistake right here? Assignment used when equality is probably intended. These are all super common errors that, the types of errors you guys are making, and DevC++ does nothing at all to assist you with that while you're typing your code. You have to run your program and see what's wrong, go back. The syntax, the helpful hints that you get in Visual Studio really cannot be underestimated. And I know that a couple of you are using Xcode on your Mac, and Xcode is very good as well. We start off with DevC++ because it's just easy for students to get up and running with. As you get into more complicated programming, that's not the case. So now I'm going to go into DevC++ and show you how it's not as helpful. Okay, so I'm going to do the same type of example here in DevC++. All right. Right, something like that. So you don't get any type of warning message here whatsoever. If I run my program, let me just put this. Right. It seems to work, but it really has a logical error, because if this was 15, it says x is 5 because you just assigned a 5 into x. You didn't use the equality operator, and that's where the differences come in. Things like not adding the the semicolon at the end, right? Like Visual Studio did. So when you do this, right now you get, oops, well I do have a typo there, but see, the IntelliSense tells you in Visual Studio as you're moving along. So now you do get a message, you know, semicolon. So, I mean, these are some of the differences, but I'm just finding, I don't know why. Now I'm typing this in Dev C++. It did pretty much help me tab things over, but I'm seeing things like this, you know, functions, and then it is tabbing over where it should, but for some reason you guys are moving back over like here against the left hand margin, and like if you have if statements, you know, I don't know, I'm just putting, right, it tabs over, but somehow you guys are going back and slamming everything up here. Like I want you to just look at that, and it does not look like it's properly aligned. So Dev C++ even seems to try and help you, but we're fighting the system here, right? Everything that is in curly braces, the body of that should be indented so you see where it begins and ends. Here you can see my main program, beginning and end. This if, right, beginning and end. This else, beginning and end. This is just, this is terrible. And then I'm seeing things like this, right? And I'm like, why are all these blank lines here? You guys have to, it's very hard to find your problems. A lot of times when students are submitting me code, I spend time trying to align everything so I can see what's going on, right? This code should look like this, right? Where you have, this is the body of the function, right? You can see the opening and closing curly brace. This is the body of this if statement. The body of the if statement should be tabbed over, right? It shouldn't be like this. It should be like this. You know, if you have another statement in the body, it should be tabbed over. It shouldn't be like over like this. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about code lineup, aligning it so that it looks nice and neat. Every example that you see from me is nice, lined up, easy to read code. But then when I get code from a lot of students, it is not in that format, and it needs to be. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefit to using Visual Studio. It's just that IntelliSense, and it helps you when you write your program. So a lot of you are putting in a ton of code, and then your program doesn't work. Visual Studio can help with that because it helps you with errors along the way. I still don't recommend that. Now that we're working on functions, write one function, get it to work, then move on to the next function, and that's kind of the process we should be using.